It's time for AggroChat, the official podcast of the Tales of the Aggronaut blog and stalwart gaming community, where we talk about stuff and things, and the stuff about the things, and sometimes gaming. I'm Belghast, and let's start the show. Hey folks, it's that time again. Time for another episode of AggroChat. This is episode 508. Tonight I'm joined by Ammo.
Hello.
Ashgar.
Loop detected.
Kodra.
Oh no, we're going infinite.
Tam.
Go to plaid.
Thalen.
Hey there.
So yeah. This is not a Game of the Year show.
Yay!
Yeah, it's the first normal show for 2025.
And season 12.
Sigh.
Sure.
So shocking to me at least. Switch 2 is legitimately going to be a thing.
I was also surprised. I was not expecting this to actually be a thing.
And be real. I understand why they didn't call it the Super Switch, but I'm a little disappointed.
Switch Advance.
At least they didn't call it the Switch U.
It's you.
So the Switch U, like the Wii U, was not just iterative though. Like that's important to keep in mind.
But they named it like it was.
Yes.
Yep.
And I was legitimately confused. I thought it was just an add-on for the Wii at first.
Same.
But yeah, so it's mostly just
It's a slightly larger Switch.
Yep.
Bigger, more ergonomic Switch, kind of? With
With Joy-Cons that click in instead of sliding in.
So I was about to say, in my head, I'm calling it the Snap. Because
nothing about the Switch requires that the Joy-Con slide in.
And now they don't slide in. They snap in. Possibly with magnets?
Probably magnets.
Probably.
I would still expect some sort of mechanical interlock.
Yeah, almost. Yeah, like a lock-in.
I want it to make a noise. That's it. So
It's
long as it
gonna
makes
make
a noise.
It's definitely going to make a noise.
It has to.
The Switch makes a noise in software, not just in hardware.
Mm-hmm. It's delightful. The Switch 2 teaser proved to me that for a certain jaded portion of people, literally Nintendo can do nothing right.
Sure.
I mean, when they said that most games were going to be backwards compatible, I was happy. That's all I really wanted.
I'm genuinely surprised we're getting backwards compatibility at all. It's great.
Yes, for Nintendo.
Yeah.
I am not that surprised because Nintendo, prior to the Switch, had been extremely good about it.
Nintendo had been extremely, extremely good about having games compatible that I could buy again.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yes, also that.
So
they started doing that with the Wii U, basically, and kept doing it with the Switch. But prior to that, they just made the games backwards compatible.
Yeah. I mean, all of my Nintendo 60 or GameCube games work on the Wii. I don't even have a GameCube anymore because I don't need it.
None of my 64 games work on the Wii.
Well, no.
No, but for the
Cartridges
Game Boy,
are their own thing.
all of the Game Boy games work on the Game Boy Color and the Game Boy Advance and the DS. That was a thing.
Yeah, their portables were unbelievable in that regard. That's true.
Yeah.
I assumed it would be backwards compatible because Nintendo has been on a tear of shutting down emulators and flash cart devices, which was telling me, oh, it's the same thing. It's just a prettier, nicer version of it.
But they iterated on one of the best hardware designs they've ever had. I'm great. I want to buy it.
I don't know if I'm going to buy it, but I am glad they're making it. Let me put it this way. I don't know if I'm going to buy it this year.
Mm-hmm.
I am definitely going to buy it.
Yeah,
I'm definitely going to buy it. I'm definitely going to buy it. I don't want to buy it this year.
No, I am the day one customer.
Oh yes.
I potentially am, but only because I still have the original Switch. I don't have an upgraded version of it, so much like I was with the PS5 and the PS4. I never bought the fancier versions of the PS4, so it only made sense to get a PS5.
Same.
Yeah, if my child were 2 years older, I would be a day one buy.
That's fair.
That's why.
If my child were
like
4
the
years older,
ecosystem.
I would have to consider whether or not I wanted to buy 2.
Like I've already, that my Switch mostly belongs to my kid at this point. So yeah,
That's what
I
they're
might
made
just
for.
so I might just
It's
buy
perfect.
this and make it like official.
Although I will say Astrobot is doing a very good job of competing with the Switch in my household.
I mean, we still don't really know anything about it other than it's a slightly bigger screen and it's got
bigger.
different attaching Joy-Cons.
The Joy-Cons look like they are more controller-esque.
It's slightly bigger. It's slightly more ergonomic. It's structured slightly differently. It's probably a generation out of date hardware-wise.
And it's probably going to have Mario Kart on it.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
probably
There's
have
going to
Mario
be a
Kart
new
on it.
Mario Kart.
Like,
Also-
I mean,
That is the thing that might make me a day one buyer. Is the new Mario Kart promising?
Also, the controllers look like they can kind of, that little optical switch, like you can use them like a mouse sort of function.
I want to know why. What is the scenario? I want to know what the scenario that anybody is envisioning in which I would be using the Switch such that would feel reasonable.
I heard someone mention for like playing like Civ games.
I don't know. I find the mouse on the Steam Deck occasionally useful, like the touchpads as mouse control. But that's entirely for playing games not designed around controller, which I do not expect the Switch to get very many of.
Yeah. And also, like, what am I... Like, a touchpad is one thing, but what am I sitting, like... I need, like, a flat surface, but also be on my... Like, am I sitting at a desk? Is this for slacking off at work? Is this the quiet quitting console?
Maybe they're going to add a productivity suite for the Switch.
There you
I
go.
don't know.
New Mario Paint.
Oh,
Okay.
cool.
Mario Paint was great. Like that would actually be kind of amazing.
Do we get a new Mario Maker? That's my question.
I just want to know how different it is hardware-wise. Like, is this still a 1080p console?
Probably.
Well, I mean, technically the current one is sub 720p. So
the handheld one is 720p. It does technically run 1080 when docked sometimes, usually.
I mean, I think I would probably be happy with one that just is always 1080p.
I do expect them to do that for the screen, actually, on the console.
Yeah, same.
Because it's been a bit. It's been 8 years. You can put a higher resolution screen in the console for less money.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's going to be a hardware improvement, and it's still going to look out of date because it doesn't need to care.
It does not need to care.
Yeah, do not expect Nintendo to chase 4K gaming. That's just not going to be a thing, I don't think.
I don't know that 4K gaming has been that terribly successful all in all. Like,
someone would like you to think it is.
No matter what, you can expect some hand-wringing articles about how Nintendo is not pushing the envelope with technology.
They are
Well, of course
already
not.
there. Those
We know nothing,
articles
and
are
those articles
already in the
exist.
house.
Amazing.
Well, it's not so much that they aren't pushing the technology, it's that they aren't innovating anymore. It's like, oh, they're doing the same tired formula. How terrible.
We did the thing that made us a bunch of money again. I don't
Is this all of
understand why people have the issues figuring that part out.
Is this all
Well,
of the
like-
same people who, when the Switch came out, were like, these ads are totally unrealistic. Nobody is going to use this console. This console is a flop. Nintendo needs to just iterate on good things.
There may be some overlap between those crowds, yes.
The amount of the original Switch like marketing campaign that I have experienced in my actual life is genuinely surprising. Like, oh, some people on a roof deck with a fire going in the background loaded up the Switch to play Mario Kart while other people crowded around holding like red cups with presumably alcohol in them. That actually has happened. There's a real actual thing going on.
one of the things that a friend and I were talking about is that I really hope that Nintendo takes a lesson from Valve in the way that they rolled out the Steam Deck, because quite honestly, like the Steam Deck, purchasing Steam Deck hardware was perfectly reasonable, and it wasn't a
Eventually.
it wasn't a scalper's paradise, is what I mean.
That's true.
Like, it was mostly limited due to actual, like, parts limitations.
Right.
Like, it took a while before. Right. Like, I could sign up and they would send me a notice when it was time for me to buy the thing.
Yeah. No, purchasing a Steam Deck was a wildly less painful experience than acquiring a PS5.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, oh yeah, you're on this wave. At some point, you're going to get an email saying, go ahead and buy it. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and buy it. And they're like, all right, in a few months, we'll send it to you. And I was like, okay. And
by the time I got my Steam Deck, they were more widely available. So I could just order one and it came. Yeah, but that was not true when I got my PS5.
I was an egregious day one Steam Deck person. And I waited a while to get one, but I got one and I didn't have to worry about it.
Yeah, I think most people just want to know for certain that eventually they will have this thing and it will arrive. Doesn't matter when, just at some point it will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not sitting in queue on Sony's site hoping for a lottery win.
I am hoping for a lottery win to get the demo.
Ooh, good luck.
I've already won at least one Nintendo lottery because I got to go to Nintendo World. Or wasn't it whatever the live show in Seattle was, where I got to try out Wonder.
Ooh,
I saw that they are doing some live demos for this, but it appears to be just in LA.
They are coming to Seattle?
It's New York, Dallas, and it's LA. Yeah.
You would think maybe they're based here, they do it. No, they're doing it in LA.
Yeah.
Womp womp.
Well, LA's where Nintendo World is, right? Like the theme park.
Amusement park. I don't even know.
I mean, it's at Universal Studios.
So kinda, in the same sense that things are kinda in Seattle.
Mm.
I'm excited.
I am very excited.
Also, don't tell Nintendo, but once I get this, I'm going to be trying to figure out how to mod my Switch.
Well, we'll have a direct focus just on the Switch 2 in early April, so looking forward to more info.
Hey, Kodra, you got a paperclip?
It's not that model.
Oh, crap. Okay.
I have a very old model.
Mine is an old model, and it can be done with the paperclip.
I think mine can be done with software still. But if you're telling me it's just a paperclip, I'm also interested.
I thought yours was newer than that, but...
Yeah, if you have a non-OLED, you can basically put it into repair mode with paperclip.
Yeah, I have non-OLED. I have one of the early gens, actually. Are you telling me you know how to mod a Switch?
I have not done it, but yes, I technically know how.
I might pick your brain.
It seems relatively trivial. The only problem is it's one of those things that has to be done every time you reboot the device.
Well, the idea would be we just make this a dedicated Switch for modding.
Yeah, I think there are ways to do that too, but the default mode is it resets everything every time you power off the machine.
Oh gosh.
Anyway, I'm definitely interested, and I think we'll find out more in April is what I remember.
Yeah, April 4th or something.
Like
I'm very curious what first-party games we're going to get. I hope a new 3D Mario.
I'll be honest, with the Switch and Nintendo platforms in general, I only really care about first-party Nintendo games and indies. Because indie games run amazingly well on the Switch, and also first-party games always take the hardware into account and run amazingly well.
Cough, cough.
I was about to say, what do we count Pokemon as?
That's a rabbit hole.
That was my thought, yeah.
Because Pokemon is both not really first party, but also doesn't take account how powerful the device is.
It's first party. Pokemon is first party.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they have no excuse.
Just because Game Freak is not a first party developer does not mean that Pokemon games are not first party games.
Yeah, it's complicated.
I was about to say, this feels like the conversation of what's a AAA game.
This is more like squares and rectangles. Not all Game Freak games are first party, but Pokemon games sure are.
Is Horizon a first party title?
Sort of.
Well, there you go.
I need to dig up the picture of the biblically correct square again. It looks nothing like a square. But it meets all the definitions of a square.
It doesn't have straight lines.
I have some squares for you that I'll look up when we're done here.
So Path of Exile 2 had a patch this week, which is their first patch of the new year. And shocking to most people, there were no nerfs. Really?
There were no balance changes really at all.
Yeah, so there were a bunch of various quality of life changes. God, I don't know. Like the biggest one for me is I play minions on the character that I'm playing currently, and that has been a horrible mess. Minion interactions has been. So basically, if you get out of range of your minions, they die, and then trigger the respawn timer, which is like 4 seconds or something like that.
It's a lot longer than 4 seconds when you start.
Yeah. And also the minions clip on everything and can't go through doors, and so you're constantly without your stupid minions. So they've made it so that if minions despawn due to being out of range, they just pop instantly. So it wasn't really a fix for the problem, but it is a massive quality of life improvement. Being able to see the citadels through the fog of war is kind of huge. This is like an esoteric thing, but being able to see what biome the maps are in is also kind of good, because there's a Atlas tree passive that makes certain biomes do different things, but you could never tell what biome a map actually was. Most mobs feel like they are easier. Bosses feel like they are harder. So whatever they did, it feels like bosses are a bit harder, but all the individual mobs are a bit easier.
That's the opposite of what I would have recommended.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, regular mobs were too hard and made their large maps feel too grindy.
Yeah, and they've gone back through and improved a bunch of the maps. They've gotten rid of a lot of the collisions on the maps. So the towers, they, instead of being the middle map on that section of the axe, they did the rooftop map. So it's way more open. Then they also added like 4 more tower maps, so there's at least some difference. General mapping seems to be a little bit juicier than it was. Like, I'm getting a lot more stuff. I've not played a ton. I think I've probably run 15 maps or so since the patch, just to see what all had changed.
The reason why I stopped playing was there was a boss that was able to one-shot me from 100% health to dead.
And I don't know that that's changed. In fact, I don't know that anything has changed in the campaign. And it sounded like they were pretty happy with the state of campaign.
This wasn't the campaign. This was a boss in maps. This was the giant with the knife.
Yeah, that boss and the skeleton monster thing that headbangs and smashes the ground. Those two are like the hardest bosses I've ever encountered in maps.
It's enough for me to be like, nah, this is stupid. I don't need to play this. Like,
yeah, I don't know that one, like there were some bug fixes that were in this patch specifically surrounding that boss. I don't know if it is to the level of this can no longer one-shot you. But I agree, that boss is way the hell out of band with the rest of the bosses. And it's also harder to hit.
Yep, because it's standing off of a ledge. It's giant. And so if you have ground targeted stuff, good luck.
Yeah. I've not fought that since the patch, but also I kind of instinctively avoid that map. Like all in all,
a lot more tolerance for nonsense than I think I do.
I do, generally speaking, in these games. But also, like, I agree with you that one is a mess. But I don't know, like I've mostly been playing Last Epoch this week, so I have not played as much of the patch as I normally would have, but it seems to have largely been positive changes. They indicated in the little announcement that they had that basically any of the bigger things would either take more time and or happen whenever they did like a league reset.
It is also really challenging because like one of the things that works really well with Last Epoch is I have done so many builds where I've gotten them like really far along, and even if it starts feeling a little bit harder, it never feels like, oh, I have to start this over. Like, this was a failed experiment. I'm done. And like one of the, like, again, PoE, so bad at letting me experiment, so bad at letting me try my own thing. The only thing I should do when I play PoE is net deck what is the absolute best build, because that's the only way you'll have fun.
I think the thing that Last Epoch does really well is even when you've kind of hit a quagmire with your build where it's like either not survivable enough or not doing enough damage, you can always kind of backpedal for a bit, and there's meaningful things that you can do to eventually get the items that you need to improve the build. Like, especially with what's Circle of Fortune, leveling that up just gives you access to so many resources that, given enough time, you will see the items that have the stats that you need eventually drop, or at least close enough that you can probably craft it into the thing that you actually need. Whereas, like, I don't think loot in Path of Exile 2 is in a great state because most everything that drops is worthless.
I was about to say, they said they were fixing bugs with tiered loot. Have you gotten any, and did it feel better?
I've gotten a lot of tiered loot. It all still seems like it's crap. I also spent, 30 minutes or so rolling various items with expedition crafting until I had burned through the resources that I had there, because supposedly that was also improved, and nothing that I got through any of those sequences of events was anything that I could have actually used. So, like, that's still bad. Like, I still feel like loot on the ground, while that is a thing that they claim that they want players to care about, I still feel like loot on the ground is just useless. I mean, you should farm the exalts to buy the thing that you want. That is the correct way to play that game. And if that's not what you want to do, then maybe that's not the game that you want to play.
Man, it'd be cool if farming exalts were like even a remotely targetable thing.
Or if like you could farm the exalts to craft the thing. Like if the crafting system at all let you steer towards something.
Yeah.
Well, the crafting system in Path of Exile 2 is really just a lotto. Like,
yep.
Throw this orb at this thing. Did it give you your end result you wanted? Okay, throw it on the ground. Try again. There's really no way to I don't know. Like, I mean, there's omens and stuff, but that is way the hell too complicated. Meta crafting was always a pain in the ass.
I was gonna say, like, you say it's too complicated, but like, it's less complicated than PoE's crafting. It's just more of a lottery. Or at least, if it's not more of a lottery, it feels that way because you can't undo.
Right. There's no scour and start over.
There's no Chaos Orb equivalent either to, like, Harvest Crafting basically reset something, Resonators basically reset something. There are a bunch of things you can do in PoE to just reset something.
Right, like, honestly, Path of Exile 1, I had gotten to a point where I was pretty good at getting good enough gear, like either through farming harvest and doing, reroll fire, reroll chaos, reroll whatever the thing that I needed the most on an item, and just hit that version of a chaos orb until I got the thing that I wanted, or a close enough to use version of the thing that I wanted. So like I did harvest crafting a lot. I did, delve crafting a lot. I was actually able to make reasonable gear. And that took a long time to learn how to do, but at least it was a thing that I felt pretty confident. Well, yeah, no, I can make some stuff happen.
Your loot drops are wildly better than mine.
This is PoE 1.
PoE 1 is what I'm talking about.
In PoE 1, like mostly I needed to hope that I could get enough currency drops to buy the thing that I needed, because there was no way I was getting getting or crafting anything worthwhile.
Yeah, but
the thing with these methods is that the item you start with essentially doesn't matter.
Yeah, it just has to be the right base.
You need a bunch of materials, and you need to be able to effectively get the materials, and I was never able to get the gear I needed to effectively get the materials.
Right. You couldn't start far enough into mapping to really make it to where you could build out an atlas that targeted the mechanic you were trying to farm.
Right.
Yeah, that is a thing. Like I can do this because I can unlock my atlas to the point where I have enough points to farm harvest on every single map, or farm essence on every single map, or target delve and get enough resonators to be able to reasonably craft in that method. But it took me a long time to get to that point. But at least I felt like without having a PhD in crafting, I could do that thing. I don't think that there's a version of that right now in PoE2. Like, I pretty much entirely have to rely on trade. And similarly, like in Last Epoch, I feel like I can get close enough items and then make them a little bit better or good enough for now.
Yeah.
I mean, that game also does not allow you to go backwards, but going forward is significantly more deterministic.
Yeah. I feel like it definitely feels like I can get, even if it's not exactly the gear I want, it is good gear.
Well,
yeah, maybe I can't get like a 5 affix version of this thing, but I can get the 4 affix version.
Yeah.
Well, we've talked about this before in the way that a lot of the abilities scale in Last Epoch. There's 2 or 3 avenues I can go down to get similar results. They may not be the optimal results, but like there's multiple ways to scale the thing to where, yeah, I can get close enough. There's enough affixes that matter, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
They're like, whereas like in okay, so the classic example is Righteous Fire. There's only a handful of ways to scale that.
Righteous Fire is a specifically narrow case, though.
Right. Like, but there's only a couple ways to scale that. Whereas the same kind of build in Last Epoch, you have maybe 8 affixes on items that you would care about.
Well, just take a simple example. Like, I'm going to go with Frost Shards because it's the first spell that came to mind that does direct damage. You get spell damage, you get frost damage, or whatever element you've converted it into, because you may have done that. You have elemental damage, and you have just sort of like general damage for spells that cost mana.
Well, and you also have
the combo.
Yes.
You've also got those combo affixes that are minion plus you, which is also another way of getting the same stat.
Those are usually distant second because the values on them are very low, but it is better than nothing.
Right. So, but if you were to happen to pick up one of those, like, oh, this is an item that is reasonable enough for right now.
Yeah, it's at least giving you the stats that you need, even if it's not quite enough of them to write home about.
So I just did my first big purchase because I'm trying to play the Merchant League, which is not a good league to be playing in right now because not enough people are playing. But I did manage to get a 2 LP Null's Tooth off of the trade, and I managed to find a sword that had 242 minion damage over time. And so I took that and I sealed a tier 1 affix that was bad, and I managed to get it up to tier 5 physical damage, tier 7 minion damage, tier 5 shared minion, and shared minion physical and bow damage. And I can't remember what the last one was, but it doesn't matter because I managed to get minion damage on the Null's Tooth along with personal physical damage. And that was a whole process I was able to go through that was very straightforward, and like it was the system working.
Right. And there are better versions of that you could have crafted,
Sure.
But like the one that you have right now is universally an upgrade. Like it is very usable, so you might as well use it for now.
It's extremely usable, and there are literally no LP3 Null's Tooths on the auction house.
Yeah, I think I've only found an LP1. Nemesis eggs helped a lot, But
Nemesis eggs do help a lot. It does mean that if you are in the trade economy, you are kind of suffering because all of those are legendaries.
The thing that annoys me about the Nemesis egg is it's created this scenario where LP1 items are useless. Because like that's not the outcome you really want now. Once, especially in Circle of Fortune, because you can get an LP1 of basically anything once you've got a fully spec'd out Circle of Fortune tree. You get LP1 versions more common than you get baseline versions of legendaries, but you can't throw an LP1 into an egg and hope you might get something interesting out of it. Anyway, April can't get here soon enough. That's when the next leak happens in Last Epoch.
I'm playing a Spellblade next.
Spellblade is so much fun. I should play something else, but I just keep on having a lot of fun with Spellblade in that game.
I played a Druid, and Druid was great. And then I played a Beastmaster, and Beastmaster is great. And I should probably play some non-primalist at some point.
Yeah, seriously. I should play an Occultist or a, yeah.
I definitely have Warlock way up on the list as things I want to try.
Wait to play Sentinel because everything's changing about that class.
Oh, for the better.
Yeah. That.
Like I like Warpath a lot, but that's mostly the only thing from Sentinel that I really, 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 really like.
Oh no, I like the Smite build. I like the Smite Healing Hands build. I think it's very fun.
Well, I play with Smite too, but I make my Warpath do Smites.
I make my Smites do Healing Hands.
Temporal whatever going in the trash is well deserved.
Yeah. Okay, so I don't think we talked about this, and honestly, it's a couple weeks old at this point, but I find it deeply hilarious. Elon Musk is having a meltdown over Path of Exile 2. The instigating event, I think, is 2 weeks old at this point.
Okay, sure.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay.
But his nonsense about it is mostly like, that's pretty fresh.
Yeah, the latest stuff is pretty fresh, but like let's run it back real quick. During Diablo 4, Elon made this big deal about being in the top 10 of all hardcore accounts and having like some sort of world first. And okay, that's a weird thing to care about, but that's fine.
It's a patently nonsense thing to flex about when you're like when you're the richest man in the world and you presumably have like a job that isn't being a professional gamer. It's just like
multiple jobs, in fact, running multiple companies supposedly.
It's like your friend in elementary school who would say that their uncle was the CEO of Nintendo. Like you just it's not even worth responding to because it's just such a patently nonsense thing to say.
Yes.
So the thing is nobody really cared that deeply about Diablo 4. So nobody really checked up on anything. However, a couple weeks ago, he was live streaming his top 20 hardcore Invoker character, and Lord was in a mess. It was very obvious that he had no clue what he was doing at all. It was very obvious that like this was not his character, to the point that there was a map tab named Elon's Maps.
Okay, so
and they were all custom rolled, and they were all pretty easy map rolls.
Yes, this is important.
Yes.
Elon's Maps are in the Elon's Maps tabs because they are the maps that the person who controlled this account felt like Elon wouldn't kill himself in.
Yes.
Right.
So the thing is you got to know, like, and you could probably tell this from listening to me over the years, Path of Exile players are really serious about the damn game. Like the level of tracking and, third-party tools and APIs that surround this game is complete nonsense.
They're second only to EVE players, really.
Yeah, like this is EVE level spreadsheet warriors.
So all these events started triggering. People started tracking his account. People started tracking everything and snapshotting everything that he was selling on the auction house. Like large volume of stuff has happened to the fact that like the only things that he seemed to be selling were just vendor trash off the floor, but was selling that for like, he made one sale for 18 divines that was like a level 10 crossbow with like a couple stats on it. So it's very obvious he's indulging in RMT, because you know how they do that? They put it through the auction house system and they overpay for useless items to deliver the currency.
Yeah.
Anyway, and like he went through his gear, and quite honestly, like his gear was some of the best items in the entire hardcore league. You couldn't even buy these things.
You talked about just a second ago how much crafting in this game is a lottery. These are multiple lottery wins.
Mm-hmm.
But for whatever reason, he seemed to get stuck on the equipable level of items as being the indicator for how good things were.
That's because that's what item level is, right? That's what other games have trained you to do, right?
Yes.
How big is your E-Peen?
Right. So like,
if you don't know anything about the game and you don't know how to evaluate an item, like, and this is like a frankly fair problem with Path of Exile. Like, he's exposing one of the ways in which Path of Exile is extremely new player unfriendly, because there's no easy way to just look at an item and kind of gauge its power. And so he does the one thing he can, which is like, oh, what's the equipable level? This equipable level is like 30 below where my character is. Obviously, this is trash and I need to get a better one. Like, I need to go yell at the person who's been piloting my account because they're clearly not doing their job right.
Right. And like, one of the items that he specifically called out was a level 52 pair of gloves, which only drops off the hardest version of the hardest pinnacle boss in the entire game, and only level 52 versions exist. That's the only version that's around. So like, it's very clear that he had no clue what any of his gear was at all. And he also like had like awful reflexes while playing the game, would just like stay up against pillars trying to push through for too long.
Go out of mana.
Yeah, went out of mana on the boss of the map for like a good minute and a half.
It's like watching someone keyboard turning.
I feel like it's worse than keyboard turning.
In like top end WoW arena.
Okay, sure.
I mean, it's the rich kid who buys all the fanciest, most expensive gear for whatever hobby, and then shows up and is just complete pants.
Okay, but here's the thing: is like, and this is a phenomenon that is very true to Elon Musk. Is like, people are like, well, at first, like, I didn't know Elon Musk talked a whole bunch about electric cars, and I didn't know anything about electric cars, but people said he was a genius, so I assumed he was a genius. And then he talked about rockets, and I didn't know anything about rockets, but people said he was a genius, so I assumed he was a genius. Now he's talking about video games, and people are saying he's a genius, but he's an idiot. I know a lot about video games.
Yeah, like, okay. So what happened is this long series of deep dive videos posted to the internet, tearing apart his gameplay, also tracking the fact that his character logs in almost exclusively from the Hong Kong data center. Like, just tearing him apart. And
I mean, the joke that I made and a few other people made when the Diablo thing was coming up was that the most ironclad NDAs anywhere in video games are the people paid to play Elon Musk's Diablo account. But like, now there's just proof that that's true.
Yeah.
And so the most popular video that came out is one from Quinn69, which is a PoE personality that is a mess of his own right. But he broke it down, and like, this is probably the most cogent video from Quinn69 I've ever seen. And that became popular. 12 million views popular. Every reaction YouTuber and streamer started reacting to it, including Asmongold.
Mm-hmm.
Which Asmongold is not a good person. I don't want you to take the takeaway of me talking about him as he's a good person. No, he's an awful person.
This is not an endorsement.
Definitely not.
But that's apparently someone that Elon Musk knew existed and is real mad that Asmongold reacted about him and has taken to Twitter to make it everyone's problem. And he took away Asmongold's blue check mark, quote unquote, leaked DMs between them that show the most hilarious level.
Hilarious.
It shows the most hilarious misunderstanding of how YouTube works.
It's so funny.
Because it's like
apparently using editors is some, conspiracy
exactly
thing.
like he, for whatever reason, I guess he thought Asmongold was a journalist as that kind of editor, but no. Every YouTuber and streamer pays for an editor. They're streaming all the time. Someone else needs to make the content to post it on YouTube.
Yeah, those are their employees.
Yes.
Which of course Musk does not understand.
Yeah, he does not work for the editors. They work for him.
Because Musk does not run companies, he buys them, and then the companies pray they never hear from him.
Yes.
He does not know how to run an organization.
He does not, in fact, know how to business.
He got a whole bunch of money from his dad's emerald mine in apartheid South Africa.
Yep, and he invested it in things that sounded science fiction cool, and he got lucky with some of them. Because ultimately, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Is he wants the kids to think he's cool. That's everything he's ever done in his entire life is because he wants the kids to think he's cool.
And man, if you have ever wanted to find out the fastest way to make kids not think you're cool, it is to try overly hard to make the kids think you're cool.
Yeah, so I don't know what level of madness is going to continue, but at this point, it's just been an utter train wreck that's been a delight to watch.
It's been really funny, honestly.
It's extremely funny.
Clearly, the next step is to buy Grinding Gear games.
Apparently, he was sock puppeting Grimes' account to say that all of his gaming achievements are legit.
It's the your friend claiming their uncle is the CEO of Nintendo. It is tripling down on it. It's just what? It's such nonsense.
You don't know her. She's from Canada. Yeah, it's been wild. Of all the communities to try and bluff, Path of Exile was not the one.
It's
but it looks just like Diablo 4.
Yeah, and he's already killed off that character. The next live stream, he just took a stupid death and it's dead. So
wow.
Wait, he was piloting it?
From what I understand, yeah, he was piloting again.
Oh, delicious.
And killed it.
I mean, it was going to happen eventually.
Yeah, that was pretty predictable.
Well, I just figured he would never do that again. That was my thought.
Really?
That would require him to have some level of self-awareness.
It's reasonable. I hope whoever was playing for him got paid real well, though.
Yeah, I mean that's probably the winner in this situation because they probably got a lot of money.
I mean, Tam was saying, it's got to be a good paycheck with a solid NDA, or one of the people that was playing his Diablo 4 characters would have come forward by now. So
this guy is significantly in charge of our government now.
I know. Looking forward to Twitter becoming the everything government app. Want to file your taxes? Do it through Twitter. Or X, sorry.
Still not going at that.
Though given how much he's pissed off that base lately, I don't know that his involvement will stick around.
Yeah. We'll see.
Yeah.
I don't know. We don't need to get too political, but I think he has the money, and the money is what the people in power want.
It's true. Although, I don't know. Apparently, they can just, throw out a random meme coin and make billions and billions of dollars, and that's, totally fine. So maybe they don't need his money. I don't think he's the richest person in the world anymore. I think that's Bezos again. So, and Bezos is kissing the ring. So Who needs Musk?
Man, I bet he's having a completely normal one about that.
Gosh,
Yep.
I do not like this Shadowrun world we're finding
I
ourselves
know. I enjoyed playing Cyberpunk and Shadowrun and so much in the 90s and aughts, but I didn't want to live in it.
This is
And
me.
yet.
See me with Deus Ex.
Yeah, it is not the dystopia I was expecting.
We could have at least gotten like some of the good parts.
I've been saving bottle caps for years. I've been ready. I wanted that one.
Ooh. What?
Mm,
No, I don't want that one.
I don't want that one either.
That's the real bad one.
But rad scorpions are cool.
Regular scorpions are terrifying.
Don't need giant
Regular
insects
scorpions are
eating my
fun.
face.
Anyway, so continuing the thread of Path of Exile 2, y'all have played some multiplayer and seen kind of the mess that it is.
I had a very uncharitable, probably unkind thing to say about that experience.
Does anyone at Grinding Gear Games have friends? Like, it was fine for one map. We went through and we beat the map and we had a good time. And then the next map, one of us died and it's like, okay, what happens now?
No, they just stay dead. Yeah. You got your one attempt. It sucks.
And the thing is it's like, no, not just that, but now I'm in the map and I am still fighting and trying to win. And it's like, wait a second, like my friend is just sitting outside, not able to do anything while I'm in here, like monopolizing the fun. No, I'm just going to bail out because this is stupid. Right. And so we just abandoned that map, but it's like, oh, wow, this is just absolute garbage.
I mean, to be fair, like the PoE 1 multiplayer experience is marginally better, but it still doesn't feel great.
Well, but if I die, like if I take a stupid death, I still get to come back in.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
you at least get more than one attempt.
I think one attempt per map is... I thought it was dumb design, but it is worse design than I gave it credit for initially.
And it appears to be a hill they're willing to die on. Like from the Q&A, it was very clear. They were very clear that they did not want to back away from that one.
They're going to have to let that one go.
I mean, yeah. Like
if they want this game to be successful, it's going to have to go.
Yeah,
it is one of the most
awful.
new player unfriendly things they could possibly do.
I mean, it's way up there with, oh, hey, when you die, everything respawns, so you don't even get incremental progress.
Mm-hmm.
That is one thing that they did that was kind of decent, is they put the same checkpoints from the campaign into maps now, which...
What do those even do?
You can teleport between them, but it doesn't help you if you die, obviously.
Right. It doesn't help you if you die, but it does help you if you missed a rare at the beginning of the map and now you're at the end of the map. You can at least teleport back to the beginning of the map and go get that damn rare and clear the map. It's a Band-Aid. Like, a lot of the things that they've implemented feel like Band-Aids to core design problems.
Yeah, anyways, it like, and after that, it's like, oh, do we want to even keep doing this? No, we really don't. Like, this was an experiment to see if PoE 2 multiplayer felt better than PoE 1, and my takeaway was, actually, it feels worse.
Yeah, and
I wasn't lining up to do PoE 1 multiplayer either.
I mean, Last Epoch is fun in multiplayer.
Mm-hmm.
I've never liked the everyone shares a single pool of loot thing that PoE 1 had and PoE 2 now has. Like, I really like it when everybody gets their own share of loot. And, like, sure, if you want to drop an item on the ground so that the other person can then see it for trading purposes, that's fine. But I greatly prefer that everybody gets their own stuff.
It's just a weird, like, it feels like this weird obsession with, oh, but we have to make loot balanced so that something, the sanctity of our game. And I'm like, why, man? Like,
because people care way too much about their leaderboards.
Yeah, that's a problem. Why exacerbate that?
Like,
unless unless you too think your leaderboards are more important than they are.
I think
I think it's actually the opposite. I think they don't want multiplayer to be the best way to go up the leaderboards. Ignore that it actually is, in fact, in PoE 1.
Yeah, right, it.
Like all these efforts they put in the way of it have not stopped it.
But it's only the best, like, for the 1%ers.
The 0.5 percenters, maybe.
Sure.
Yeah.
And like that's my thing is it's like, hey, like if you're so worried about it, so there's a couple things they're worried about. They're worried about the sanctity of their leaderboards, and they're also worried about their standard economy, I think.
I don't know why they care about their standard
economy. It's 10 years old. It's a mess. It's never going to be not a mess.
But like, this is my thing is like, there should be leagues that you can join where we care about the sanctity of the leaderboards. And then there should be the leagues that everyone actually plays in where no one cares about the sanctity of the leaderboards.
Yeah, like you should be in leaderboard mode, and then you can care. Then you can do stuff that's like, you know, we've set up this rule set so that leaderboards are relevant. But it feels so hollow to try to claim, oh, it's leaderboards are super important when I can't do maps because I can't get a gear drop. Like that just. I
feel like those are separate issues.
But they're speaking to a lot of the same things, because if you're getting the way you're going to get up the leaderboards is by finding great ways to get fast loot. Multiplayer is already the best way to get the loot and thus go up the leaderboard. Like it's just a question of, you know, how much do you want to emphasize that? I mean, and I suspect that they would say the same thing, that, oh no, those are totally different, but I don't see them as that dramatically different.
Anyways, once we were done with like 20-30 minutes in PoE 2, we're like, okay, what other multiplayer game could we play? And I was like, hey, isn't there a Elden Ring multiplayer mod? Which is a mod, which means that it doesn't necessarily have to go by the developer's intent.
Which is good in this particular case.
Which is great, because now I'm able to like have a nice, cozy Elden Ring experience where me and my friend chill and like go on quests together.
I think someone told me there's an AC6 multiplayer mod too.
Oh my god, that sounds amazing.
Assassin's Creed 6?
Ah.
Oh, Armored Core 6. Sorry.
Yes, at least you didn't say Ace Combat.
Armored Core was AC before Assassin's Creed.
I'm so sorry. I would also check that out.
Oh, that would be, crazy fun.
But it was sweet. We were able to like, you know, come out and sort of just go through Linville straight into Margit. And you know what? Margit killed us. He killed us.
If you don't do, it turns out if you don't do any leveling, you do, or basically any work at all, you get murdered by that guy.
Well, you can. He can definitely murder you. And then we did it a couple more times and we figured out some strategies and we got him.
Yeah.
But like, it didn't feel like, oh, this is a snooze fest. It was still exciting to be in there.
Yeah. It was way more chill, but it was also pretty fun. And Elden Ring is pretty fun when, like, I admittedly, I thought Elden Ring was fun, but I recognize that, like, it's a little bit more intensive an experience than a lot of people are looking for, but you get to have a ton of fun if you just want to play it that way. It's a ton of fun to just, like, hang out, chill with your friends, beat up monsters, get loot, and level up.
Yeah.
And it's, and crucially, as Kodra said, it's not a snooze fest.
Yeah, it's like, hey, let's go on a quest. Like, let's go somewhere. This world is huge. There's so much stuff to do in it. Like, that's definitely one of, like, I want to play more games with friends. I want to have more experiences like this. And, like, yeah, this one felt good. I'd also definitely be interested in AC6.
That one would be wild.
I mean, that is... Many early missions are not designed for multiplayer.
Oh, there's some punishingly difficult bosses that you would cakewalk over just because you can get 2 seconds of breathing
You can get
room.
behind them.
Yeah, or behind them.
Yes, this is the thing with multiplayer in these games, is getting breathing room is important.
Okay. What is 1000x resist?
What a weird game. So I'm pretty sure it's by the same group, the same team that did Slay the Princess.
It's in a bundle with it, at least.
Yeah, it's in a bundle with it. I don't know if it is. I don't actually know if it is the same, and like don't quote me on that one. But it is a difficult to describe game. It is. I've talked before about painting with a broad emotional palette. This game paints with the broadest emotional palette in the shortest amount of time I think I have ever seen. It has so many things to say, and the scale of the ambition of its storytelling is wild, but also it feels like grounded and genuine. It looks like a late PS2 game. Like it's not, and I'm overstating that a bit, but not a lot. But it's got this, you're playing as somebody, and it drops you into the most indecipherable in media res I've seen since Angel Beats. But it resolves relatively quickly and hands you a bunch of different just story details, and you realize that it's telling like 3 or 4 different stories in parallel and is not pulling punches with any of them. You are the clone of somebody who you and all of the other clones venerate as a goddess. And that goddess wasn't like a super... This is in the post-apocalyptic aftermath of a global plague that maybe was caused by aliens. I'm not sure. And it turns out you discover very quickly that the person who's cloned is immune to it for some reason, and there's just like other weird stuff going on, and part of your like trial to become a full whatever you are is to see the like history of the goddess. And it's like high school drama in Canada, where it turns out that this person is like Chinese diaspora in Canada. And so it's talking about like the kinds of problems in China that would cause this person's parents to leave and for her to have a pretty fraught relationship with her parents, as well as her experiences as Chinese diaspora in Canada, as well as post-apocalyptic global pandemic, as well as this like cult of clones. And it's like the purest art game. But wow, if I haven't gone from this is sort of crappy and the acting and the voice acting feels bad, to everything feels like a stylistic choice. This is like some of the most intense storytelling since Gone Home. It's just a wild ride, and like huge parts of it are like not very good from a gameplay standpoint, but the whole is super compelling, and they're clearly working with like, can we turn our technical and artistic limitations into stylistic choices. When I was first listening to it, I was like, man, the audio levels on the voice acting feel bad. Like it feels like people are kind of mumbly. But the more time I spent with it, the more it was like, oh, this is how people talk. It sounds like somebody is talking directly to me, not a recorded thing. And that itself is a little weird, and amplifies some of the emotion. because it makes all of the emotiveness in the dialogue feel authentic in a way that I suddenly hear it not being in like more traditionally acted things. It's like, oh, this person is portraying an emotion, whereas this person is emotional. It's weird. It's weird. It's wild. I definitely am glad I took a look at it because I was, not in the hugest hurry.
What is the gameplay?
That's a challenging question to answer. It's part walking around, part. Do you ever play Omicron: The Nomad Soul?
Nope.
Like,
Oh boy.
yeah, like it's weird stuff, man. Like, I don't. It's a deeply difficult question to answer. It is absolutely. It is an artistic experience, and I think it's really cool for being that. But it's weird to talk about because like I don't know what I could call the gameplay. Like half of it has been me. It flips between perspectives and gameplay styles and so forth fairly rapidly and for mostly artistic reasons. But it's also not like playing Heavy Rain. It's like playing one of those weird adventure games from like the early aughts that like everybody knew they needed to go in more 3D and less point and click, but nobody was really sure how to do it. And so you get just like weird little mini games and bizarre interpretations of movement, and half the time you're just walking around talking to people, and half the time I'm not even sure I would call it half the time I'm not even sure I would describe what I'm experiencing as like gameplay per se. But it's charming and definitely unique. It's been blowing up on my like certain feeds that I'm on, and I have a better understanding as to why, because it's just like this wildly experimental weird thing going on. But yeah, like relatively inexpensive. If you like art games, it's worth your time at least to take a look. It is definitely a unique experience, and if you're looking for a unique experience, it is great for that. Whether I necessarily am going to recommend it, like, oh, do you like video games? Try this out. Like, I don't know if I'm there, but it gets the same kind of recommendation that I give like Disco Elysium.
Mm-hmm. I mean, looking at the description of the game, like I don't know if it's actually anything like it at all, but for some reason it made me think of the old Infocom game, A Mind Forever Voyaging, which is very unlike most of their other games. And
is it an adventure game released in the early 2000s?
No, it's from like 1985.
Okay,
old text adventure.
Because yeah, there's just it feels like the kind of game that we stopped seeing 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But the kinds of things it has to say are a lot more pointed and a lot more modern. Because like, I play some of those old games and like the thing that it has to say is like, oh man, corporation's bad. Am I right? And yeah, sure. Yes. But I'm not going to call that like a surprising, revelation. Whereas like, hey, did you know that there's a way higher incidence of juvenile delinquency among post-protest Chinese diaspora in Canada? Like, I happen to be aware of that because I read a particular webcomic in which that's a big part of one of the characters, but that's an awfully specific way to have heard about that. And it's very interesting to see that portrayal from a different direction. And like, that's, just not something that I see very much of, much less hear people talk about. It's like, oh, it's, this is cool. But yeah, if you're feeling like cool art, cool, just unique art, think it's worth your time.
Also indirectly reminds me, because I get it's the same publisher. Citizen Sleeper 2 is coming out soon.
I'm so ready for that.
Also a game where it's hard to answer the question, what is the gameplay?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I do feel like I could at least explain a little bit more of Citizen Sleeper, which is it kind of feels like a tabletop RPG.
So, Ash, I think you've been back on a Grim Dawn kick.
I've been playing some Grim Dawn. I've been playing some Grim Dawn for a few weeks now. After some initial struggles with things like TeamSpeak configuration.
I don't know what that was about. It was wild.
I still don't know what that was about. However, I have been playing a bit of Grim Dawn, but because I'm me, also I have been learning about Grim Dawn because I kind of see Grim Dawn, its class system is definitely interesting. It's really cool. It was the thing that I liked about Titan Quest back in the day. Grim Dawn, by the way, is a game that is almost as old as Path of Exile 1, and unlike Path of Exile 1, it's not been redone since then, really. It's gotten 2 expansions and it's going to get another one soon. But this game is definitely old. But it has a very interesting class system in which you pick basically 2 classes and then combine the skills from both of them to get your character's abilities. It has an item system that is very different than, say, Last Epoch or Path of Exile, either one, in that items can have, generally speaking, 2 affixes, but what an affix is a much expanded list. Their affixes do ridiculously nonsense things.
There's also like just their unique items are usually quite good.
Well, they have like 2 stages of unique items. There are monster infrequents, which are green and have some fixed attribute that comes from the monster. And then there are blues, which mostly are drop anywhere. And then there are purples, which you don't see in normal difficulty, but they do exist.
Oh, do those only exist in higher difficulty?
They exist higher level items. But like, for example of how much prefixes, like just affixes differ. A prefix you can get at level 24 is charged, which is an amount of lightning damage, roughly like 2 to 20-ish. Lightning damage, for whatever reason, has very high rolls in this game, same as it does in PoE, and converts some physical to lightning, which is a thing that happens a lot. Or you can get something like Storm Charged, which is a very similar damage roll range, but then also some cold damage, and then also some bonus lightning damage, and then also some conversion, and then also some casting speed. And then also it has chain lightning when you hit things. Affixes are ridiculous. And unlike Path of Exile or Last Epoch, there is basically no crafting system that applies to normal everyday items. There are fixed items you can craft with certain materials. Largely, getting items is getting more items to drop. And this apparently remains true even in the end game, although there are a bunch of different ways to get certain items, target farm items. Some items only drop from certain enemies, things like that. But I've been curious to just dive into the systems here and discover that there are other ways to do things. Like, this game had different ideas than Path of Exile did, and has executed fairly well on them for about 10 years. I think the thing sort of holding it back right now is the lack of, like, it has no league or league equivalent, except as run by players. There are a few player examples of things like that, but that involves mods, and I haven't bothered actually digging into that. I am not into the game enough to investigate that yet.
I've played around with the mods a little bit, and mostly you go out to Nexus Mods and use the Vortex client, and it sets it up for you.
Right now, I'm just sort of learning things about different playstyles in the game. I started an attempted a pet class, decided I wanted some different class combinations, which is the only thing you can't reset, and ended up rolling a new character to play around with that a bit more. Turns out that the sort of unassuming looking familiar that you can start with as an occultist, very good. It just shoots lightning bolts at things and they die.
I don't remember. Does that game have WASD?
I don't think so.
It has controller support.
It does have controller support. I mean, it's out on Xbox.
I have been playing this as well, mostly in multiplayer with Ash and Tam.
Yeah.
This game is not too afraid to let me have a gun, and it wins a lot of points for that.
Yeah, it can be a gun mage. It's pretty cool, actually.
The setting of this game is definitely unique for games of this type. It is fantasy post-apoc, I guess, is how I'd call it.
Yeah.
It's not like anything else that's around, really.
Yeah, it manages to be fantasy post-apoc without feeling too much like Warhammer Fantasy, which is sort of also that, but
I definitely don't think of it as that, but I get what you mean.
yeah.
It's way more Fallout feeling to me than it is anything else. Just their world. Because, like, it's very obvious that at some point, this was a world that had some modicum of technology.
Yeah, and I mean that's the title, right? The Grim Dawn happened, and then everything went to complete crap.
And now we're like maybe to colonial era technology.
I mean, there's a certain amount of technology you don't need to develop again when you have magic.
Right, exactly. You can kind of lean on that instead. But you're also like using dynamite to blow things up and
Yes.
I have to say, pathing my way through the constellations is fun. I like it.
That is by far the most complicated part of building a character, which is funny to me.
Yeah, but it's like, okay, I need to, like, this requires me to get these points unlocked. Okay, how can I unlock those points? Like, okay, what could I get to, like, what path to those points do I want to be going through?
They also extremely strongly, believe in respecing. In fact, in order to do your devotions, the constellation part optimally, you kind of need to respect.
It turns out these games are more fun when you can respec.
Yeah, can you just mess with stuff?
Yeah,
Yeah,
like,
you can try
this
stuff.
is cool, actually. I want to try things.
What a concept.
do you know when the expansion's coming out?
I don't. They haven't said. That's definitely why I started getting back into this game. They said, hey, we're adding a class that can become a werewolf. And I'm like, yep, all right, you got my attention. But they have not given a release date for this.
Yeah, last I had heard was 2025 sometime.
Yeah, it was originally supposed to be late last year, and then they pushed it off to 2025 with no date. But they are still making devlogs. Like, they've shown all the abilities of this class. They've shown the system they want to add.
And also footage of Titan Quest 2's leaked out this week.
That I didn't know about.
Yeah. So that's a thing that's also coming down the pipe.
I think building on Grim Dawn as a base is mostly fine. Like, yes, this game is old. It still works pretty fine. Titan Quest is older. It feels older.
Yeah.
Less snappy, abilities feel less good. Some of its ideas, as regard in class design, are bad.
Yeah, Titan Quest was cool at the time, but I don't think... But, like, even at the time was a little bit behind the curve.
I mean, it wasn't really behind the curve because the only curve was Diablo 2.
I mean, it was a contemporary of Diablo 2. It just came years later. I mean, it was 2006.
Still years before Path of Exile came along. So yeah, I very much understand why they decided Path of Exile 2 was the way to go there. Or Titan Quest 2, rather. Let's just see how they do it, I guess.
Yeah, I'm interested to see where they go. Because, like, even at the time, Titan Quest was trying some neat, interesting, different things than its contemporary.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it had a really good story, too. And the campaign was fun. So...
Yeah, it had an actual story. So did Diablo 2. Let's include it there. So did Diablo 2.
But Titan Quest is the one that I think about when I'm like, why does everybody seem like it's fine that these games have just garbo stories? Because, like, I played one that was great, had, like, a legitimately good story.
Well, I mean, another game from that same time is Sacred, and I remember it being quite fun.
Boy, the Battlezone style summoner game. No, that was Sacrifice. Sacrifice was so good. Where's the remake of Sacrifice?
Well, that is probably a show. Any final thoughts anybody has?
More games should let you turn into animals.
I burned my way through the entire Murderbot series, and it's pretty great. You should read it.
I've heard lots of good stuff about it. I've got the first one on hold now.
It's so good. It's so good.
I mean, Anlecki clearly liked them, and I've enjoyed Anlecki's work, so...
I love that like the first 3 books have the exact same cover pull title or pull quote of I love Murderbot. They're really short. I mean, so it was pretty easy to get through all of them, and they were delightful.
Yeah, because they're novellas, I believe.
Yeah, they're like 200 to 500 pages. There's one that's much longer than the others, but they're all pretty short, 200 to 300 pages.
I think the first 4 novellas, and then the 5th one is long enough to be considered a full-length novel. So yeah, I'll get on those.
Yeah, anyway, hopefully you enjoyed the show, and we will see you again next week. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
See you.